Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, once again. I'd like to confirm if you can hear me. I would like signify if you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Good morning. Welcome, travelers, to our storytelling journey today. I am your guide, Billy Adeusi, the production manager for Teo-Inspiro International Limited, and I am thrilled to share this experience with you. Get comfortable, relax, and let's dive into the world of stories. Today, we'll explore the impact of storytelling. We'll weave tales, spark imaginations, and connect through shared experiences. And I'd like to tell you, your participation is invaluable. Thank you once again for joining. So right about now, we'll be introducing ourselves, and I would like us to make use of the chat room. And the introduction should please be in this order: your name, the name of your organization, and the location where you're joining us from. Your name, name of your organization, and the location where you're joining us from. So we have Peter Agada from Howard University Global Initiative, Nigeria, joining us from Abuja. Mr. Peter Agada, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. So we're introducing ourselves. You can make use of the chat room in the order of your name first, the name of your organization, and the location where you're joining us from. We have Aminata So from African Human Capital Development Plus, Abuja. Thank you for joining. We have Ali Bwala, independent consultant, joining us from Abuja. Dr. Wilson Xavier from Excellence Community Education Welfare Scheme, joining us from Delta State. Thank you for joining. Jubril Suleiman, Independent Project Management Specialist, joining us from Abuja. Aina Adibola. Okay, I don't know if you would do us a favor of giving us full meaning of the acronym. You joined us from Ekiti. Thank you. We have Oludare Olayemi Bidemi, ARFH from Osun State. So please, just in case you're just joining us, we're introducing ourselves. You're to make use of the chat room in the order of your name first, name of your musician, and the location where you're joining us from. Also joining us from Abuja, we have Richard Apotareno from Options Consultancy Services, Regional Business Development Specialist, West and Central Africa. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Richard. Aina Adibola, Excellence Community Education Welfare Scheme from Ekiti. Thank you for joining. We have Ede Ekene Christopher, Monitoring, Evaluation, Research and Learning, Lagos. Alexandra Shotulu, Muritala Mohammed Foundation, Lagos. Thank you for joining. Do Brenda Ada from Preston Associates International Development, joining us from Abu. Big thank you to everyone who has joined and have introduced themselves so far. So right now, we would like our participants to drop their expectations. That is what you look forward to have harnessed at the end of this webinar. We can make use of the chat room as well for this. Our expectations, what we look forward to learning at the end of this webinar. Thank you. We have Sonja Fraser, Adventist Development and Relief Agency, joining us from Canada. Welcome. We have Sharon Simpa from Association for Reproductive and Family Health, Abuja. We also have Peter Adewale Moses, sociologist, social impact crusader, joining us from Ogun State. Works with Mind Builder Global Initiative. Thank you for joining. We have Professor Obioma Nwaogu, Global Health Awareness Research Foundation, Enugu. Thank you for joining. So, expectations from Peter Agada: to learn more about the subject matter, to access a current knowledge relative to the training content. Okay. Simeon Odwen: I look forward to learning how to amplify NGO activities through advocacy on social media platforms through impactful content. So we are being admonished to keep introducing ourselves, the template of our names first, name of our organization, and the location where we're joining from, and also to drop our expectations from today's webinar. From Richard said, learning objective: to curate impactful project outcomes to all stakeholders on improved health outcomes through evidence storytelling in different platforms. From Aminata, so to learn the latest storytelling techniques to increase engagement. Thank you all. So we're still being encouraged to keep introducing ourselves for those who are just joining, and to also drop our expectations. All right, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for sharing your expectations. Right now, I'll be calling on the operations manager for Teo-Inspiro International Limited, in person of Becky Onoja, to give us a brief the about the organization. Becky, you have the mic.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. My name is Rebecca Onoja, but I am always called Becky. So I'm going to tell us more about the organization, which is Teo-Inspiro. I am the operations manager for Teo-Inspiro, and thank you very much for joining. And I know we are going to meet your expectations today. So, Teo-Inspiro International Limited is a digital content production company with a network of agency partners across Africa. Our team has over 6 decades of cumulative experience in strategic communications, public relations, media buying, digital media marketing, content production, social media management, knowledge management, and event management. We have provided top-notch media consultant We have provided top-notch media consulting and content production services to a wide range of organizations in the private and non-profit sector since 2011. We understand that for non-profit organizations, the most important milestone is the lives impacted positively as a result of their program. So we know the importance of storytelling and shaping narratives. We have provided various content production and consultancy services to the British Council, Ubongo International, Save the Children, Helen Keller International, Sanlam, First Bank of Nigeria Limited, and many others. In 2023, our documentary was an official selection for the Abuja Film Festival and went on to win the award of Outstanding Documentary Film. In 2018, our documentary film was nominated for the Best Documentary at the African Magic Viewers' Choice Awards, popularly known as the AMVCA. You can visit our website for more information on our services and resources for your communication team. Our website is www.teo-inspiro.com. It will be dropped in the chat room, so you can just visit us and know more about us and get some details for your communication team. Thank you very much for listening. And I know that we are going to meet your expectations through this webinar today.
Thank you, Becky, for the brief about the organization. Moving on, I'll be introducing our speaker for today, Dr. Ogenefego Ofili is a corporate communications, media relations, and media content producer with nearly 2 decades of cognate experience in documentary production, media consulting, branding, public relations, and communications. She has a proven track record of providing organizational and strategic communication consulting to clients in the development sector. She has provided media engagement and consulting services to the British Council, Helen Keller International, Save the Children, Center for Women's Health and Information, and a host of others. She is skilled at designing practical communication approaches and benchmarking communication strategies to align with set objectives. Dr. Ogenefego Ofili holds a master's and doctorate degree in human nutrition and dietetics from the University of Ibadan and a master's degree in media and communications from the School of Media and Communication, Pan-Atlantic University, Lagos. She is the managing director of Teo-Inspiro International Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I make welcome the speaker for today, Dr. Ogenefego Ofili. Doctor, you have the mic. And communications from the School of
Hello,
Media
everyone.
and Communication, Pan-Atlantic
Good
University,
morning.
Lagos. She is the managing director.
I'm so
Teo
excited
Inspiro
to have you.
International
If you can hear me
Limited.
very clearly, please
Ladies and
just give
gentlemen,
me a
join
thumbs
me as
up
I make
so I know I can go ahead.
speaker for today, Dr. Ogenefego Ofili.
Yeah,
Dr.
thumbs up. Awesome. Okay,
and
great. So
from the
I know
school
we're very busy individuals,
and
and
Team
good
University,
morning.
Lagos.
You've taken time out of your busy schedule to be on this call, and so I want it to be very, very impactful. I want it to be a good use of your time. So I'm going to go ahead to share. Something that is very important to me is that we are able to have enough time to ask questions and interact after my brief presentation. In the course of my presentation, if you have questions or you want to make comments, feel free to drop them in the chat room. I'm sure the moderators are going to be able to identify them. A good use of your time. Okay, so let's go. Today I'm sharing on measuring and sharing impact, best practices for NGOs. I went through some of the expectations, and I'm glad that many of us are very interested in ensuring we begin to share more impactful stories about the work we do. From my experience, I know that nonprofits contribute a lot to society, but we're so focused on the work we do, the lives we're transforming, that we kind of do not pay attention to sharing this impact that we're making. And what happens in that case is that people do not really appreciate, the general public, which is your major stakeholder, would not really appreciate the efforts that are being made, the investment that is being made across board in various communities across the country. So I've always been passionate about sharing with nonprofits, working with organizations to see how we can more effectively share the impact stories and the work that we do across the world, not just Nigeria, across the world. So this is just a brief overview of what my slides are going to be about. I'm just going to go straight into it. Okay. So I've always been, you see, as non-profit organizations, like I mentioned earlier, we're so focused on the impact that we're making in the lives of people, communities, and nations. And because we do not have to count naira and kobo or money in the sense of naira and kobo or dollars, right? As profits to any shareholder, like it is with the for-profit organizations, businesses. Most of the times, we do not pay attention to the fact that our own profits, if we want to measure if we have been successful as an organization, as a non-profit organization, one of the major things we are looking out for as organizations are the lives that we have transformed. So if you run a business, if you run a business, you're going to keep record of your income and your expenses, right? So that at the end of the period, we're going to see a financial statement. They can say, oh, this business is healthy, it's doing well. And if there is an investor, he or she will be interested in looking at the books. So if you get to a business and you want to invest and there is no evidence of how money comes in and how money goes out, I'm not sure you would want to. Okay, sorry. Let me just fix. I hear there's a bit of a challenge, like an echo. So give me a minute. I guess it's coming from our platform YouTube. So I just beat that. Okay. I'm sorry about the break. I'll track back. I'll go back a bit. I don't know where you missed me, but I'll start from my major first slide. Okay. Let's go back to sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Not yet. Okay, let me share. Okay. Share the screen. Okay. So I'll just backtrack a bit. Okay. The overview of my session. I hope it's better. It's way better now. And that interference is no more there. Okay. So I was saying earlier that if you run a business and I wanted to invest in your business, the first thing I'll ask is to see your financial statements, right? If I get to a business and they do not have any record of that, then I would not be interested in investing because I'm not sure how they're going to handle my money. The same is applicable to the nonprofit sector. So we might not be presenting some kind of money, right, profit and loss to any shareholders. But the lives that have been transformed by the investments we're making every day of our lives is something that should be documented. And this should be a core component of the strategy that we have as nonprofits. And that is why in Teo-Inspiro, we're trying to create more kind of advocates, right, and create more awareness that nonprofits should begin to pay attention to telling their stories and being deliberate about documenting it, because that's just the evidence that you have to show the investment you're making. It also helps you to begin to change perceptions. You know, I shared something some weeks ago and somebody was already in the comment section talking about our NGOs, they're always stealing money, all they do. So there are perceptions people have, and some of these perceptions can easily be changed if we begin to tell our stories, if we begin to document and share stories that are not just posted, right, on social media. So the focus today is for us to be able to understand how we can amplify our organization's impact, how to curate content that engage your audience emotionally, because storytelling is about connecting with the audience emotionally. So like I mentioned earlier, it's not about posting on social media and being on the news, right? That is what most of us just focus on doing. So when you say, but people, are you not seeing on my social media, we posted this, we did this workshop and all that? Yes, but you've not connected with your audience on a particular level, which storytelling or crafting compelling narratives would do for your audience. And that is one of the reasons why we're having this session. So it's more about having a brand voice. Most of the time for profits again, you have marketing, you have a whole department developing the brand of the organization. But to find out that for nonprofits, we don't take some of these things so seriously, right? We just feel, I'm doing good. People should know that I'm doing good and people should appreciate me. But that's not how the human mind, right, works. The human mind needs you to give them a reason, needs to see you position yourself in a way that makes them say, oh, wow, this person stands for this organization stands for this, and they can distinguish you or identify you in a crowd. So now, what is this storytelling that I've been all about? The words that I highlighted are very important in the definition. If you go ahead to write a long narrative and we do not have a vivid description of your ideas or whatever you're trying to pass, the narrative that you're trying to capture or craft, and if it doesn't have an emotional connection to the audience, whoever is going to read, whoever is going to see, I'm sorry, you have not told a story. Okay, you might have told a story, but you might not have told an impactful story. And this can only be achieved when we are clear about what our mission is as an organization. In the last couple of years that I've worked with non-profit organizations, one thing, anytime we have to develop communication strategy, we go back to the mission. And just so that I don't exaggerate, right? Out of 10 organizations, 7 of them, we have to revisit their mission. If your mission is not clearly stated, if it is not clear, and this is not the time for us to go and define what is a mission and all that. You do that in organizational development. But the goal of storytelling is you're able to emotionally get people to connect with the mission, to be committed to what your organization is about. So this is not about, we did a workshop, you take pictures, no. It's about what is the mission of this organization? What have we set to do every day to achieve our vision? And how are we going about it? So in communicating that, you use storytelling to share whatever you are sharing with the audience, but the idea is for it to be able to get people emotionally committed to your moderators. Please, if you can look for whoever is speaking and just mute them. Don't do a general mute. Please, let's all mute our mics. Thank you. Okay. So what are the principles of storytelling? For me, there are 3 major principles, right? You must make people feel. Remember, I mentioned emotions. What makes your narrative compelling is that I can connect with it. I kind of feel the pain of the person. I kind of feel the pain of the country. I kind of feel the pain of whatever situation you are describing in your communication. Then it should evoke a memory. For those who saw one of my posts some weeks or some days ago, I'm not sure now, I told a story. I started a story about an encounter I had on a flight, right, where there was a medical emergency. Immediately you saw flights in that story. You connected because somehow it's either you have heard a plane pass over your head, or you've heard of a plane crash, or you've been in a plane yourself. You immediately connect with what's this person about to say about planes, about flights, right? So whatever story you're trying to craft or come up with for your communications or for your various platform has to evoke a memory. You should look for a way to connect it with something that your audience will connect with or will have a memory about. So it's either personal memory or distant memory, so from somebody else's experience, and then it creates a connection. So once you talk about flight, I've been on a flight and I'm almost 99% emotionally connected to whatever you want to say because I'm involved in this matter. Okay, so it's about the power of words, how you use words to get people to feel, to evoke a memory that they already have somewhere, and then to get to them to create. When you do 1 and 2, most likely you get them to connect. So there's this video that it's quite popular. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll just play it for everyone to see. It just gives us, an insight. It gives us insight into what I'm trying to say. So there's this blind man. I don't know if you've seen it before. It's just a few minutes video I want to share just for us to see the power of words and how you can use it to connect with your audience. And this guy has, "I am blind, please help me," as his signpost. And let's just watch it for. Can you hear the audio, please? If you can hear the audio, give me a thumbs up. Okay, so when I tested this earlier, it worked perfectly. So I'm just going to try again to share the video. We'll share the video separately so that you can hear the audio. Okay. Can you hear the audio? Just to be, you can't hear it. Oh, okay. Okay, let me try again. Let me share again, and then maybe it will be better. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, share video sound. Okay, I think it will work now. I just wanted to pause so that you can see what was written. So earlier you had, I am blind, help me, and nobody was dropping anything. And then this lady changes. So it's just the power of words. It's a beautiful day and I can't see it. What happens immediately? You read this as someone who is not sight impaired, you kind of connect emotionally, whether it's empathy, and you want to drop something. And that's what happened. So just changing the text of his signpost, and he got a different, what we call a different response from the people passers-by. So just to share how words, right, storytelling, that's as simple as that, is how it can make a lot of difference in the response of your audience. Okay. I know you're not going to be on the streets begging, but just to share how words can make a huge difference. So how do we then measure results? It's not new to us in the nonprofit space, right? We have M&E, that's a monitoring and evaluation experts. We have monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning. So we have always measured our results. So what's different? Why are we not getting the kind of results that we should be getting from sharing these results, from putting it out there in your reports and even your posts on social media, even having news outlets, maybe news media, give you a few seconds on their screen. The challenge is knowing what and how to measure the impact for a compelling story. So most of the time, our focus is usually on just this project and how I can just share that I'm doing this, and then you put it out there. we usually, number one, we did a survey recently, which is still on. I would like, if you have not filled the survey, please, I'll share it later on the chat room. And almost 80% of nonprofits do not have a communication strategy. Like, you do not have a document that says this is our strategy when it comes to communications. And when we don't have that, it's already a challenge on its own. You might be collecting data on the field, you might be taking pictures and sharing everywhere, but because there is no strategy, you don't have more like a document that is guiding the process. It's very difficult to mistakenly, right, begin to achieve engaging an audience. Because really, what I'm really passionate about is to get the general public, which are our larger stakeholders, to be more involved in the work that we do, to want to participate, to want to contribute. I'm sure it's not going to be a bad idea if certain people just decide to commit a certain part of their income to the work you're doing in your organization. It's possible, but we need to connect at an emotional level with them, and we would only achieve that when we begin to tell compelling stories. So there are basically 3 levels of results, right? You have the outputs, you have outcomes, and impact. Most of us, what we do is share outputs, right? Activities, more like outputs are like results that you get immediately. We did a training, 50 people were in the training. We were able to select 200. So I was a media consultant on a British Council ACT program, and over 200 CSOs across 10 states were selected for that program, to participate in the program. So that's an output, but you're able to get 200 CSOs that meet your criteria for selection. That's an output. That's just immediate results, right? Then a few people now move on to outcomes, where, okay, we now did capacity strengthening for the 200 CSOs. They now have capacity, they can now write proposals, they now know how to do financial management. Their books are now updated. They are updated when it comes to the regulatory policies and all that. So that's an outcome. So because we selected these 200 CSOs, we're able to build their capacity, and now they have this information, they are up to date, blah, blah, blah. That's an outcome. Why almost 100% CSOs stay with outputs, activities that we're involved in and what we're doing, a few move on to sharing those outcomes, to say, we have built the capacity of 50 women, they are now self-reliant, they now have their own businesses, or we've given them starter pack and all that. But very few organizations move to share the impact. And impact is not immediate. Impact is 3 to 5 years down the line. What has this project, or what has my organization over the last 3 to 5 years achieved in contributing positively to the society? So that's why it's important that you have a mission statement that is clearly articulated, that aligns with your vision, that aligns with the objectives that you know, the kind of projects you are designing and implementing. Okay, so at the level of impact, if I'm using the same example of the capacity building, what I would share for the program is we shared, actually it's a real project, we shared stories of organizations out of that 200, about 50 of them who went on to write proposals and got grants, and not just little grants or like small grants, in thousands of dollars, right? That is an impact. So an organization, a small, CSO, somewhere in Kaduna or in Kano, just doing their little thing, has an opportunity to be on that capacity strengthening program, now has the capacity to write grant proposals and begin to work with bilateral and international organizations. That's an outcome for the arts program. Okay, that's the impact. So these CSOs, most of the time, they were just the founder will bring out 50K from his pocket, they'll go and do advocacy, come back, take pictures, and put it on social media. We've done something, they're active. But there was really no structure. And this program was able to create structures, help them to become like very, very reputable organizations. That's an impact. If we wait another 3 to 5 years and we go back, most likely, most of those organizations are going to be like international standard organizations if they continue with the impact that has been made. So it's for us to begin to move from just sharing outcomes, from just sharing outputs, activities that we're involved in, to move to what are the outcomes of those activities and what is the impact over time. How is this tied to your mission and your mission as an organization? So to measure that, to get content that will help you tell compelling stories, you need to outline what your key performance indicators are. And I'm sure those of us in MIE know this already. So as an organization, what am I looking at? What makes me believe that I am achieving my goals? What have I set as objectives, right? Is it the number of people that we want to reach? Is it the number of orphans and vulnerable children that are now back in school and one of them has given? So you need to outline them. You can't measure what you do not define, okay? Many of us are doing a lot of work, but we've not done the right thing from the beginning, which is to have our KPIs clearly outlined. We give a lot of attention to quantitative data, right? How many people attended, male, female, and all that. But we also need to begin to pay attention to qualitative data. So your focus group discussion, your key informant interviews, those data collection methods that allow you to interact with the beneficiaries of your project. That is how you begin to connect emotionally, and it will help you come up with impact stories that are related to what your organization is doing in that community or country. Another way is to focus on using multimedia documentation. So there are a lot of studies that have proven over time that once you have audio visuals, right? Once you have visual, you add audio, or you have an illustration, people pay better attention to that. So in collecting data, we should not just focus on, like I earlier mentioned, taking numbers and then just moving on from there, people filling questionnaires and all that. We need to think about more creative ways to get multimedia platforms that we can use for our storytelling. You can see from this chart, say which media platforms that give the highest return on investment. The top 6, number 1 is videos. So how many of us go to the field? And I'm not saying that you have to hire a photographer, a professional photographer or videographer to go to the field every time with you. But there are, as small as a meeting, a consultation meeting, an advocacy visit, there should be a short video. You have a phone, right? We have resources with us that we can use to actually share more compelling stories. And now, going to best practices. I would really love to have conversations, question and answer. So that's why I'm trying to, and we have case studies at the end of this session. So I will just run through this and give us more time for the Q&A session. Let your mission be clearly articulated. If we do not have a clearly articulated mission, it's going to be very difficult to even design or develop a communication strategy for your organization. So if you've not done that, there are consultants, there are people who can help you clarify what your vision is, be able to articulate what the mission is and how your organization can begin to think about developing a communication strategy for the organization. It is very, very dependent on your mission. At least that's where I start. When I'm working with organizations, I want to see your mission, your objectives. From there, we can now say, okay, this is how we can go when it comes to your communications strategy. Aim to create audiovisual content. I already mentioned that earlier. You could see from the data that we saw earlier how audio visuals is like best for return on investment. But you need to give your photographers and your videographers a clear brief, right? Most of the time, you just invite, I see this a lot. You just invite an organization to come and cover your event, but there's no brief. So this guy or this lady, whoever, is just there and pressing record or taking pictures. So you need to be clear about what you want. Remember, we want to connect emotionally with our audience, like the larger stakeholders, the general public. What will make them connect with you is when you have some kind of emotional responses or something that triggers an emotional response, if I should say. So if I see somebody laughing or smiling, I would most likely, oh, why is this person smiling? So videos, pictures, have a clear brief. Communication managers, please have clear briefs for your videographers, your photographers, before they come to your events or your projects. It's very important to help you get the kind of content that you want for your platforms, okay, to execute your communications strategy. Okay. This is something I keep repeating. It's important for communications teams to be added to your field teams, okay? Once in a while, communications teams should not just be in the office and wait for MIE to submit a report, they read it and come up with a summary. No. If you really want to understand you want to have an authentic experience of what's happening in the field, you want to be able to interact with your beneficiaries, the stakeholders, the communities. That is where you begin to get ideas for the kind of stories, creative ideas for the stories and the narrative that you come up with. So it's important that we do not just sit in the office or wait for when it's an event before we come out. We try to be more involved in implementation of projects so that you have a direct interaction or experience of what's happening on ground. Have mechanisms to collect success stories, okay? That's why your brief is important. Make sure there are interviews. Make sure you have part of your design of whatever your strategy is or your plan is. Let there be a documentary, very short. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 1 minute. But always look for ways to document success stories. Let people give you feedback. Let the beneficiaries give you feedback of the work you are doing, whether it's a text message or written on a handwritten notes. Collect those things. Those are ways that you could share impact stories. Before and after, right? You do baseline, end line. It's not enough. It's no more enough, right? It's not enough. It's enough if you just want to report, but it's not enough to tell a compelling story. We need to know what happened in the middle. And that's why I encourage communications teams to sometimes go to the field and see what's happening. We need to see the process that made the change happen. It's beautiful to see before and after picture, but it will also be great to see the process. So if we're building a hospital or we're boring water, right? Boreholes, right? Trying to get clean water for people. Let's see the process of that happening. Again, I'm not saying you have to have professional videos and all that. Your phone, you have a smartphone. If you do not have one, somebody in your team does, or you can invest in one. It's a bit more affordable. But to make sure we're documenting those processes, that kind of, when you share those things, people engage more with those kind of content. People say, oh, wow, progress is going on. So it's now on lintel level, or they've even put the tank, oh, they are putting a solar light. So people are more engaged with those kind of content than you come at the beginning and stand with some stakeholders and say, launching of borehole. Oh, duh, okay, thank you. Thank you for putting a borehole. They don't have an emotional connection with the impact that you are making. Focus on telling human-centered stories. I think almost everything I've said is kind of connected to that, connecting emotionally to human beings. I will share case studies and maybe we'll be able to understand these points better. I mentioned this earlier, focus on outcomes and impact and not just activities. Have a budget. Part of our survey, and even in my experience working with nonprofits, most of the time there is no budget. Communications teams are always complaining about budget, but it's important that if you want to execute your communication strategy, if you really want to show the impact you're making and become a voice, right? Have a brand voice that people recognize anywhere, anytime. There has to be a budget to your communication strategy. These two teams need to work very closely. We're part of an organization, a part of a team that is trying to achieve a mission. We have a mission. So we're supposed to work together, not in silos, to ensure that we're able to capture the stories that are out there for us. So how would I start sharing case studies without talking about a project that I was on? Okay. Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. I guess I had a slight technical challenge. Yeah, so how would I not share this? So we were involved, I mentioned this earlier, the arts program, and I had the honor of designing a social media campaign for the program, and it was wonderful. You can go through it. The strategy had various communication platforms that we used. We were on social media, so digital platforms. You had the traditional platforms, so radio, you have the print media and all that. So, but what I really want to emphasize here is having a mission. When you have a mission and you are able to tie to your campaign. So the name of the campaign, this campaign was Civic Action, Sustainable Communities. If you go to the social media platforms, you're able to see how they curate content. We're able to curate content that at the end of the day, you know what this organization or this campaign is about. There's no misunderstanding about what we stand for as a project. Another case study I want to share is this infographics from WaterAid, talking about connecting human-centered stories. So there's almost nobody in the world who has never seen a bucket or who doesn't have a bucket. So they're trying to talk about water and the need for us to produce, more like use water more respectfully, right? And even if you can contribute to ensuring more people have clean water. And then they use this infographic that says, if this bucket is representative of the world's water, this teacup is the part of it that is fresh and clean for drinking. But this teaspoon, right? It gives you an idea of what? From a bucket to a teacup, and now a teaspoon is what is available for use. So you don't just waste water. You pay attention to the fact that, oh, come, I know there are seas and rivers. People will say 70% of the world is water bodies. So why are we having water problems? But when you see an infographic like this, you begin to have a better perspective of, oh, I understand what they're saying and where they're coming from. Okay, so that's one way you can use infographics to connect with your audience. I have this video from what they call them, Rainforest, sorry, Rainforest Alliance.
You are a good person.
Sorry. And it's a campaign to save the rainforest. And this is the video that they used for the campaign. Just to be sure that you can hear, I'm going to play. Please, if you can't hear, drop a comment so that I can fix it. But let me try.
Spend time with your family. You work out at the gym.
Come on, push.
You are a good person. You spend time with your family. You work out at the gym.
Come on, push.
You conserve water while showering. You like nice clothes. You give to charity. You recycle. You drive a Prius, but you use your bike when you can. You enjoy the occasional distraction at work, and you always send a card on Mother's Day. Always. But there's a part of you that tells yourself that you're not so good, that you could be doing more, that the world is falling apart at the seams and all you've been doing is yoga. One day you see that the rainforest is being destroyed at a staggering rate of 32 million acres a year. That's the equivalent of one football field every 78 seconds. You feel bad, angry, guilty. You've been apathetic for too long. You want to do something about it. You must do something about it. Well, this is what you're not going to do.
I quit!
You're not going to quit your job, leave your family, get on the next flight to Nicaragua, take a bus to the edge of the jungle, then hoof it across rivers, lakes, and streams on a quest to the very heart of the rainforest.
Take me to the heart of the rainforest.
You're getting closer. You're almost there. You have arrived.
You're not going to ingratiate yourself with the local tribesmen, go to great lengths to earn their respect and trust.
Nope. No.
It is around now you realize you're living out the cliché gringo fantasy of becoming an honorary native and leading the resistant forces. But screw it. If they could do it, so can you.
I'm gonna save you! This guy comes over here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna pull a zap thing, that's right through him, right over here.
You're not going to coordinate and occupy the rainforest movement, realize it's hopeless, summon the power of the gods, lead a revolution against the deforesters and their multinational employers in an apocalyptic once-and-for-all battle to save humanity, only to awaken 2 days later in an El Salvadorian hospital with 2 toes missing on your left foot.
Siri, I wanna go home.
Hobble out of Central America, up through Mexico, across the Sierra Madre, where you break down, have your first cigarette in 4 years, accidentally start a wildfire, killing off the endangered species that once served as your occupational distraction.
I'm so sorry. I think I mistakenly touched something.
I named TJ, and that things at home. Across the Sierra Madre, where you break down, have your first cigarette in 4 years, accidentally start a wildfire, killing off the endangered species that once served as your occupational distraction, finally make it back home, only to find you've been replaced at work by a guy named TJ, and that things at home are not what they used to be. You're not going to do any of these things, but what you can do is follow the frog. Buying Rainforest Alliance certified products ensures the future of our rainforests, so that you don't have to do the things you shouldn't do anyway. Just follow the frog.
So this is a campaign. Let me put my video on back, okay? So that was like a campaign by the Rainforest Alliance, trying to get people. You're not going to leave your job. We're not saying leave your family and come to the rainforest to save the planet, right? But you can actually, what you can do from where you are is pay attention to this logo, follow the frog. And when you use those products, you are helping us save the planet. So that's like a campaign message. Let's see this other case study from Charity Water. I'm just trying to share examples of some campaigns or things that organizations do to elevate audience interaction and engagement with their content. And if you look at it, this video that we're going to see now, Charity Water, is about providing clean water. The one about rainforests is about conservation, climate change, and all that. So it goes back to the mission. What is the mission of your organization? What do you stand for? What are the goals and objectives of the organization? That is from what point, or with that information, we're going to be able to create your communication strategy for you. Okay, so let's see this video, Charity Water. So you can already see that was where let me, when you see this, they're trying to connect with you that it's easy to say, we're trying to provide clean water for those who do not have access, blah, 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 donate or whatever. And you talk and talk and talk, and you might not get anybody responding to you because, hey, I have my own problems too. But when you do a campaign or a short video like this that says, imagine this is the kind of water you have, right? Imagine you have to drink this. But this is exactly, they're just trying to tell you, this is what other people in some parts of the world are going through. And you can do something about it, okay? They go on to give us more like data. Almost 1 billion people don't have access to clean water. And even if it's $1, you're going to, after seeing this kind of video, even if it's $1, you're going to want to donate. So I'm just trying to show examples of how we can begin to create compelling stories, craft stories, create content that gets people to be more committed with our mission. But the challenge I've noticed, like I'm repeating all over again, most of us have not really taken our time to have a clearly articulated mission statement and then design programs and projects around that mission statement, which also now helps whoever is designing or developing your communication strategy, your communications team to stay focused so that there's a message. We know your brand. We identify your brand with a particular voice, right? If I hear nutrition, there are certain organizations that come to mind. If I hear children, there's certain organizations that come to mind. So what do we hear? What is it exactly about your organization that stands you out and people listen to you? So that it's not like I'm just using international or very far organizations. One of the case studies I love is the Gain and what they do with their communications, right? If you go through their social media pages, just aside, don't go to the website, let's just stay with the social media page. If you read through if you had 100 posts on their page, I bet you 98 of them always draws you back to what the mission of the organization is, and which is to improve nutrition outcomes by, so every time Gain is posting anything, whether it's an article, a story, a picture, a video, the caption that goes with it draws your attention to their mission. So it's like, this is why we're doing this. We've just launched a policy document. They tell you we launched the document, but as you're reading through, you find out that this is in line with our mission to do this. That's something that Gain does very well, and I would like you to also go check it out just for us to get some tips. Another organization that has done very well, in my opinion, is Budget. Budget, we all know, in fact, as I'm mentioning these organizations, I'm very sure those of us in the space, even the general public, because now we're not talking to ourselves, right? It's not about all of those of us in this sector. It's about the general public understanding the contribution we're making. There's hardly any educated person, at least anybody who is on Twitter, let me use X now, right, who doesn't know what Budget does. And that's the idea, because they stand for something, citizen engagement, holding your government representatives accountable. And that's what they do. Quite simple, but they have various programs that keep re-emphasizing what their mission is every day, every time you see them, okay? Our Paradigm Initiative, another organization, their mission is about creating access, digital access to the underserved and those who do not have access. And almost every post you see on their platforms, news, wherever you see them, their websites, they drive you back to saying, we're trying to bridge the gap in access, digital access for the underserved. And then the final one I have here, there are many of them, is connected development, which also has to do with community. So anytime you see code, you're thinking, oh, what community have they gone to? What are they doing there? What are they building there? And that's how you build a brand identity for your organization. But you must first, I bet you, if you go to these organizations, if you have colleagues there, ask them questions, you find out that they have a clearly stated mission. You find out that they have a clear communication strategy. So people are not just waking up and deciding, oh, this is what we should post. There's a strategy, there is a plan, and they're executing that plan. There's actually also a budget for it. Just to add that, okay? So, in closing, John Medina says, vision trumps all our senses. All our senses. So what I can see, I would recall a lot faster, right? A lot more than what I just heard or read. So research already shows that 10% of what you heard is recalled 3 days later. So if I say something to you like this lecture, if it was an audio podcast, for example, you might only remember 10% of what I said in 3 days' time. But because there's a video and I've played some clips and all that, you might not remember exactly what I said, but you have an idea of what you saw. And so by the time you add an image, study has shown that you are increasing recall rate by 65%. So impact storytelling should be at the center of your organization's strategy. I cannot emphasize that enough. So thank you very much. I look forward to the next session where we'll be able to interact and share our questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ogenefego Ofili, for this wonderful session. And I'm very sure our participants have been able to learn 1, 2, 3, or more things about storytelling. So now the floor will be open for questions. So we can raise our hands if we have any question. And we can also type in the chat room, can drop our questions in the chat room. So if there's any question, you can raise your hand and you'll be told to come up with your question. Okay, we have a question here from Willie Lima. Question reads, what are some practical ways to ensure our storytelling remains authentic while amplifying the impact of the communities we serve? I'll take that again. What are some practical ways to ensure our storytelling remains authentic while amplifying the impact of the communities we serve? There is a follow-up question which reads, could you share examples of storytelling techniques that have proven most effective in inspiring donors and stakeholders to take action?
Okay.
Doctor, you have the mic now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Going through them. What are some practical ways to ensure? Yeah, to ensure authenticity is so we have techniques in storytelling, right? I didn't go deep into that because this is like just more like a a short webinar. Hopefully, many of you, the announcement will come later. We're going to have like a class, an on-site program, which I do with organizations over time to craft compelling stories. So one of the best ways is, there's this challenge that we have in the nonprofit sector, which is the privacy, right? Paying attention to privacy of your beneficiaries, especially when you're talking about empowerment programs. And that's why most of the time what we do is get a general, get consent generally to say, oh, your pictures are going to be taken, hope you grant us permission. Or sometimes people have something posted on the wall, or it is mentioned earlier that pictures and videos are going to be taken as far as you're a participant here. But by the time you want to have an interview with somebody to share their story, the standard thing to do is to get a consent form. So you need to ensure that your beneficiary or your interviewee has given you consent to share their story, or to even record them or take their pictures and share their story. So for instance, if I have permission to do a video or interview this woman in this community, the most effective way is to get a video story. Okay, so let her tell you what happened, how I don't know how to this, I don't have all the time, but in our practical sessions, we're able to tell you there's a question guide. You have to develop a question guide which aligns with your objectives of the story you want to tell. Remember, you have a mission that you are trying to get people to know about. You have an objective for setting up that project. So you want stories that will kind of prove that you are making impact. To do that, people are going, if you just ask what was the impact of this project on your organization or your life, people can talk from morning till night, and you will still not have something tangible to use that kind of highlights the impact. So it's important that you have a question guide that guides your participants or whoever you're interviewing to give responses to specific questions that you think, when answered correctly or properly, will give you the story that you want to share. That's one thing we should always have. If you are not able to get interviews, like video interviews, you can do audio interviews, and not necessarily to post them on any platform or share them, because people can recognize people's voices. But in storytelling, we say for your story to be to connect emotionally with people, you can create a character, right? You can create a character. You don't have to use real names to tell that particular story of a woman or a widow who had 5 children, and you're able to empower, blah, 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 just because of privacy, and you do not want a situation where she feels like she's been demeaned in any way. Okay, so you can still decide, you can still have a situation where you create what do I call it now? That word just left my memory, but you create like not a caricature, but you create a persona, right, that represents your ideal participant and the impact, and then you can share that. So use videos if you can as your best option. If you can't, you get videos, use illustrations, use pictures. I think those are very, very effective ways to tell stories. Let me see. Authentic while amplifying. So yeah, so remaining authentic means that you have to get real stories, right? You don't just sit in your office. That's why I suggested that our communications people go to the field and feel the vibe, right, on ground. Because if you just sit in the office and read a report from whoever has written a report, you might not really get the sense of what is really happening. So to maintain authenticity, you need to be on ground to know what's happening and feel the vibe from the people. How could you share examples of storytelling? Okay, could you share examples of storytelling techniques that have proven more effective in inspiring donors? So when we do storytelling or communication strategy, we're not just thinking about your posts on social media, because we're thinking about how you position yourself. So I'm trying not to use brand, so that it's not like I'm talking to for-profit organizations, but it's actually a branding thing where you position yourself as an authority when it comes to a particular topic. Okay? A challenge we have is that some of us are in different places, right? Today, we're seeing you as sexual and reproductive health advocates for the whatever. Next thing, we're seeing you in food security. And I'm not saying you can't participate in all those things, but ideally, if you had a communication strategy, if I was your consultant, I would not allow you post anything or share anything that doesn't align with your mission and what your organization or what your brand stands for. So we need to be clear. I go back to your mission. You need to be clear what your organization stands for, what you do. When you position in that light and you share your work in that area or in that field, you begin to gain the attention of donors and other stakeholders. So it's very easy for budgets to walk into any state government's Ministry of Budgets and Planning. It's quite easy. Just say budget and they know that, oh, there's this budget. So it doesn't happen by chance. It happens by having a strategy and being consistent in providing information or that's around that topic. How can we balance emotional engagement with factual transparency, especially when dealing with sensitive topics in humanitarian work? Emotional engagement. I'm not sure I really get a grasp of what the question is asking, but standard. It's if a business uses gimmicks, right, to just attract people, I do not expect a non-profit to do that. It's not about, we need to be factual, really. But in being factual, for instance, let me just go ahead. In being factual doesn't mean that you don't have you're not making real impact in the work that you're doing, okay? So I'm not saying you go about coming up with things that did not happen just because you want to gain engagement and all that. That's not the principle that I'm sharing here. I'm saying, for instance, when you say sensitive, right? When you're working, let me go to the extreme and think of what could be sensitive. Maybe talking about domestic violence. That could be a very sensitive topic, right? And you don't want to put the survivor in front of a camera and all that. Yes, and when you're even working with children, there are various principles and international standards that will follow. So in that kind of setting, if that's your area of work, there are illustrations, right? You can use infographics. There are ways, even in production, for those of us who do film or do video productions or even take pictures, there are ways to capture these things without sharing the identity of the individual or the beneficiary that you are referring to. I hope that answers. If not, I'm always willing to share more. Okay, I think I'm done with that. Are there any other questions, please? Is there a generic format or template for story? Yes, Richard. Yes, there are formats that you can use, and that wasn't covered in this session. But first general format is that your story must have a beginning, right? It must have a middle and it must have an end. But the question is, what have you put in these three segments? So your beginning has to be catchy. The first 10 seconds or the first sentence I'm reading has to draw my attention to want to read further. Okay, so what's in the middle? Maybe the actual person or the actual event or impact that you're trying to share. And then what's at the end, re-emphasizing how this aligns with your mission as an organization. I think that's like I could just give that as a quick formats that you can use generically. But when you're talking about platforms, right? When we do communications and our content strategy, when we talk about platforms, there are different strategies for different platforms. What I just gave is a generic template. But when it comes to LinkedIn, we know LinkedIn, you know the kind of audience. So who are your audiences? And this ties into the question that was asked earlier about getting donor support. I don't know, as an NGO, or even a business or whatever organization or a thought leader, if you want to be seen as a thought leader, serious in the profession or in whatever sector you're playing, LinkedIn is somewhere you should be. And LinkedIn is not just for you to post you are this activity and you have a longer, you have more space, right? More character or word space to tell us exactly what the impact of that program you're doing. So LinkedIn is a more like serious kind of platform. X has its own audience and all that. I think in the next webinar actually covers all this. Actually, I'm going ahead of that. But each platform it's not necessarily about the content that you have crafted. It's more about the audience on that platform. So I can have the same story that I share, but the way I share it on LinkedIn is different from the way I share it on X, on YouTube, and other platforms, because these platforms attract a certain kind of people. So if I want to attract donors, I want to be seen as a thought leader, I should be on LinkedIn, and there should be a way I present my content on LinkedIn. Please, how many minutes is preferable for a catchy story in a video format? So study shows that your first 20 seconds are the hook. So whatever your hook is, whatever I see in the first 20 seconds will determine whether I stay all through that video or not. But if you're doing short videos as part of your strategy for content, you should be looking at 60 seconds, right? So whatever you want to say should be said in 60 seconds. But if you have platforms like, it's a video for YouTube, it could be a bit longer. So your short version, what we call a highlight, could be on other platforms that leads us to the longer version, maybe on YouTube, that allows a longer platform, a longer format video. So, but pay attention to the first 20 seconds of your video. What's there? That is what will make me stay with the content. Like the video, one of the videos you watched, the water one, right? Look at the beautiful apartment, and you saw the woman and her child with gallons going to fetch water. First thing that comes to your mind is like, as beautiful as this environment is, why are so many people on the road with yellow gallons going to look for water, right? So that already keeps you like, okay, what's happening here? So that's like something that you can do. Do you factor in feedback from your audience in your storytelling approach? Yes. Margaret, wisdom, yes. I mentioned it earlier during my session. Feedback is very important, and you must have a mechanism to get feedback. So you're either getting feedback, written feedback, you're getting audiovisual feedback. That's why I mentioned interviews, or deciding to do a short documentary or short videos. But yes, in fact, the audience telling their stories themselves is even much more impactful, in my opinion, provided it's crafted well. You have someone who is able to edit the story properly for you. Okay, those are all the questions I'm seeing. Somebody's asking if we can get a slide. We'll see what we can do about that. But for now, this session is going to be on YouTube, so you can always watch it. It's actually streaming live on YouTube at the moment on our platform. You can always see this video if you have to go back to it. So yeah, thank you. Over to you, Billy, moderator.
Thank you very much, Ma. Sure, those are all the questions we have for now. Thank you for doing justice to all the questions. Right now, I would like to make mention that the next webinar will be coming up on the 27th of November 2024. And the topic we'll be discussing then is how to increase audience engagement on social media, best practices for NGOs. I take that again. How to increase audience engagement on social media, best practices for NGOs. It's coming up on the 27th of November 2024, and the time is 11 a.m. So for this webinar coming up, a link for registration will be dropped in the chat box. We can start registering from today, and we can also share the link with others. And then also in the chat box, there's a survey form which we can all click and drop our surveys. So we have two links now in the chat box. We have the one for registration for the upcoming webinar for 27th of November, 27th of November, where we'll be discussing how to increase audience engagement on social media, best practices for NGOs. So we can take time to fill the survey form. It's in the chat box already. And also, Impact Storytelling Masterclass, a 3-day on-site workshop that will result in designing your organization's 2025 communications and content strategy, and practical sessions on digital marketing and crafting compelling stories with expert facilitators. It's also an upcoming event, which is Impact Storytelling Masterclass. It's a 3-day on-site workshop that will result in designing your organization's 2025 communications and content strategy, and practical sessions on digital marketing and crafting compelling stories with expert facilitators. Okay, and the date for this is December 10th to 12th, 2024. That is the Impact Storytelling Masterclass, the 3-day on-site workshop. The date is December 10th through 12th, 2024. There's also a link for registration there, which you can click and also register. So while we take the survey and also register for the upcoming webinars, would still like to ask if there's any question that anyone would like to ask pertaining to this webinar. Can signify by raising our hands or dropping them in the chat box. Thank you. Yeah, while we'll take the survey, while the survey is still going on, I would like to announce that two participants have won free consultation sessions with Teo-Inspiro International Limited team. Were selected. The criteria for selections were those who joined in earlier, like the early birds who joined in. And they are Ademola Okunaya and Jubril Suleiman. Ademola Okunaya, Jubril Suleiman. If you can hear me, both of you have won a free session, consultation session with the Teo-Inspiro team. Thank you. So we're still being encouraged to fill the survey and as well take time to register for the upcoming webinars. One for 27th November, which is how to increase audience engagement on social media, best practices for NGOs. And the upcoming one in December, Impact Storytelling Masterclass, which is a 3-day on-site workshop happening December 10th to 12th, 2024.
So just a quick one. So those who have just been announced as winners, kindly know that we'll reach out to you via email to see how we're going to go about the consultation. So it's just to be able to help you develop your communication strategy and hopefully also give you access to the 3-day workshop masterclass coming up in December. So you already have your seat reserved. And I saw a lot of questions about location for that. At the moment, the on-site trainings are going to be in Lagos and Abuja. But based on demand and how the registration goes, if we have people who are also ready to be hybrid, we'll also create a hybrid platform. But I would really love to have people on site because it's going to be a very practical session, going to be practical session. So we're going to want to be at the end of the 3 days, we want to have you. Your organization should have a communication strategy, have a content strategy for the whole of 2025. I want to be able to position you so that from January 2025, you are already set to begin to tell your story. So congratulations, Mr. Ademola and Mr. Jubril. I look forward to having further conversations with you. So thank you for taking the poll. I can see people responding. Yeah. So over to you, Billy. I just wanted to add some context to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So on the screen, we have an event feedback form. Would like us to also fill this. There are 4 questions there. Event feedback is on the screen. And on this note, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined us on today's webinar. It's a great pleasure having you all here. Looking forward to seeing us all on November 27th for the webinar coming up, and also the 3-day on-site seminar, which will be coming up December 10th to 12th. Let's not forget the link is in the chat box. You can register ahead and also share the link with others, as well as the link for the survey. Also, let's not forget the feedback on the screen. So on the feedback, we have one, how will you rate this session? That's the first question. Secondly, will you like to attend the next session? Third feedback question, how can we improve on subsequent webinars? And the last question on the feedback is, how did you find out about this event? So these are the questions from the event feedback, and do well to answer to the 4. Okay, yeah, thank you. We can see the responses coming in. So if you filled the event feedback form, I would like to say thank you for your time and your patience as well. Wish you the very best of the day. And we implore those who are yet to fill the event feedback to please do so. Thank you very much. Okay, and someone is asking if they can get the recording of this session. Yes, we're streaming live on YouTube, so you can always go to YouTube and have a playback of today's session. Right from the scratch to this very moment is on YouTube. Thank you. All right, and with this, we have come to the end of today's webinar. Let's not forget, before we leave the chat, let's endeavor to fill the event feedback form. And also, let's not forget the link for registration to the upcoming webinars are in the chat box. And also, the whole webinar was streamlined on YouTube, so we can always go back to YouTube to have a rewatch. Thank you all for attending and wish us all a great and wonderful day. Thank you.